Hey folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host. Wanted to go live with you on this because I just wanted to share with you my thoughts about a timeless classic. And that timeless classic is A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. As many of you probably know, this book, that play, was written decades ago, but it still speaks to us today. It still speaks to us today. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say it is shouting at us today, not just the United States of America in general, but I would definitely say to Black folk in the United States in particular. It's 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 just talking to us. It's preaching to us. It's pleading to us. And I really believe that more and more Black folk in this country, we got to pick up that book. We got to watch that play and deal with the questions it raises. I mean, really struggle with its theme and plot and characters. Uh, Lorraine, Lorraine Hansberry, through that play, through that classic, she's talking to us. She's encouraging us to question things and to think about things and contemplate things. And I would even say to celebrate, to celebrate, to dance, to embrace all that's positive and good. And but before I sort of talk a little bit more about my thoughts, my personal thoughts about a raisin in the sun, and before I sort of say to listeners, regardless of the color of your skin, hey, give me your thoughts about a raisin in the sun. Give me your opinions. Share with me how a raisin in the sun has impacted you personally, and share with me what you think this play is saying to us in general, and what it might be saying to us, Black folk in particular. Before I do that, though, I'm going to read this poem. This poem's called Harlem by Langston Hughes. Listen up. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrup sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? That was Harlem. The name of that poem was Harlem by Langston Hughes. And let me do it again because I did mess up one point. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrup sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And so, as you can tell, there was the play A Raisin in the Sun that Lorraine Hansberry got that out of that play, Harlem, Langston Hughes. Yesterday I did a thing. I read a statement, a poem, a description Harriet Tubman did of the Civil War scene. She observed the Civil War battle, and then she wrote about it. And then out of that statement, John Oliver Killens got his title, his classic, and Then We Heard the Thunder. And here we see Lorraine Hansberry doing the same thing, something very similar with the Langston Hughes poem Harlem. But let me also say this to you. Please go to YouTube, youtube.com, and put in there Raisin in the Sun. And you'll be given the opportunity to see the play as it was done for television, done for the movies. And it features in that play Sidney Poitier. And Sidney Poitier, as the guy's a giant. The guy's just flat out giant. And I've seen that movie many times. And I just said to myself, man, you just can't. I don't think there's anybody could do a remake of that any better. I mean, that's just classic. And I thought Sidney Poitier and all the other actors in that play, that televised play, just nailed it. It was just absolutely beautiful. That was until I came across a play where Danny Glover and Esther Rolls were in it, Raisin in the Sun. And I was absolutely amazed um, at how those guys, all the people in that particular interpretation of the play, A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. I mean, Danny Glover, Esther Rolls, I mean, just genius. I just couldn't believe it. It's almost like, if you ever seen the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, I mean, who can remake that? You see, who can redo that? But when an artist sort of stays in his or her lane and they want to, maybe they're inspired by the Mona Lisa and then they do their thing, you just have to appreciate greatness. I mean, it's like, okay, here's my Mona Lisa. And it's not a remake of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. It's their Mona Lisa. And it's just as inspiring. And that's what I experienced when I saw the Danny Glover version. What I call the Danny Glover Esther Rolls version. And they're both on YouTube. Check them out and do a comparison. And people, you'll see what I mean. I mean, I just thought, oh, Sidney Poitier in that version, you just can't get any better. But then I saw this Danny Glover version, and I was completely taken away. And I've seen other versions, and they're no good. They're just not in the same field. I'm sorry, they're just not in the same field. But those two, you got to watch those two. Here's the other thing I want to say. Currently here in the United States, black manhood is, from a cultural standpoint, is under attack. Period. It's just under attack. I'm going to be, at some later point, recommending some books that people should check out. But black men, the image, manhood, masculinity, is just all under attack. It's no coincidence. I mean, forgive me if I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but it's no coincidence that we're seeing these white cultural Marxists, white left-leaning media pushing effeminate, transsexual black men. I mean, they're pushing that. They don't want black men to be men. They don't want black men to be protectors of the community, of their families. They don't want black men to be providers of their community, of their families. They don't want black men to be strong position of leadership in their families and in their communities. They don't want that. They don't like that. And they'll do whatever it takes to undermine that. And if they can't undermine it by pushing forth the effeminate black men, the so-called transsexual black men, the black man is just demasculated, then they'll push forward, saying to black men, hey, engage in a death culture, excessive drug and alcohol use, excessive sexual behavior and all. Do that. They're pushing that. And I could talk about this for a long time, but they're in A Raisin in the Sun. I want you to understand one thing. See, there was a time when I initially looked at A Raisin in the Sun, I thought that family, that the main message was, hey, regardless of we lost some money, we're going to use that money to buy a house, but we lost a good part of that. And regardless of the fact these white folks don't want us to move into their neighborhoods, but we decided against that. That was that family pursuing that dream. No, the dream deferred started the generation before. It was when that black man and his wife said, we're going to leave the South and we're going to go to Harlem. Then we're going to get a place, and then later we're going to save some money and later buy a house, get a house. That was the dream deferred. That was the dream deferred. And then what the next generation does. They just pick up from where the prior generation had dropped. It sort of stopped. They hit a stone wall. They just sort of stopped there. And then when you look at who was the key black male figure in that play, it was not the son. It was not Big Mama's son. In the play, that role was played by Sidney Poitier, and then in the other play I just talked about, that role was played by Danny Glover. It was not those two. They were not the key or central male figures. It was Big Mama's husband, deceased husband. He was always present. Even in his death, that black man was a provider, was a protector, was a leader. Even in his death, he was that strong of a man that almost from the grave, he was still doing what he needed to do, what he could do to provide for his family, to protect his family, and to lead his family, to say, hey, we're still pursuing that dream. And some of it was visual, like you'll see a photo of the father. And then they're waiting for the check that he generated, his insurance policy. In that dream, that was his dream, to get a place, to get a house in Chicago. We're going to leave the South. I think it was Chicago, but I said Harlem before. That was wrong. But we're going to leave the South. We're going to come to Chicago, and then we're going to get a house. Okay, that was his dream. All right, and then the son, Sidney Poitier, Danny Glover, they picked up where their father, the man, left off. That's important. That's what the white cultural Marxists, the white communists, the white leftists, deep in all those other nut jobs in the Democratic Party, that whole culture, that whole mindset, they don't want us thinking that way. They don't want us thinking that way. They want to see us as, they want to push the homosexual image on us, this so transsexual stuff on us. That's what they want to push on us. Hey, I ain't got nothing against homosexuals and transsexuals. That's your thing, man. If that's your thing, you go do that. You have every opportunity to go do that. What two consenting adults do in the privacy of their bedroom, that's your business. I don't care. I really don't. But I'm not going to quietly stand by and say that is the prototypical black male image. That is what the black man should be about. No, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Other cultures don't do that. Other people groups don't do that. We're not going to do it. We're not. Sorry. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to quietly stand by and just let it happen, not speak out against it. So it talks about that. Now, I'll tell you another thing that I got out of that play. Folks, when it's all said and done, you can talk about, ooh, we got to get more Democrats in office. Man, you talk all that smack. You talk all that smack about reparations, talk all that smack, we need more government programs. All that stuff is ignorant smack. It's ridiculous. Okay? You can talk about how all the Republican Party is racist and they don't like us. And every time a black person is part of the Republican Party, he's a coon, he's a sellout, he's an Uncle Tom. Man, shut up with all that nonsense. That's ignorant. You don't know the history of your people. You have not studied the history of your people if you think that way, one way or the other, if you think that way about the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and their relationship with black folk. Let me tell you what's going to move black folk forward. Fundamentally, what's going to move black folk forward in the United States of America? Family. Family. Man, woman, mom and dad, children, family. And then, the extended family. Family, that's it. Okay? Study the history of Italians in the United States of America. Study the history of white Jews in the United States of America. Study family. Family's critical. Family is fundamental. Family. And right now, one of the key issues facing The black family in the United States of America is the emasculation, the emasculation of black men. If they don't want to kill us, if they're not trying to kill us, if they're not trying to throw us in jail, they're trying to emasculate us. Folks, it makes me laugh when I just have to point out the obvious to people. I mean, it's there, it's present, it's clear. So it's about family. Family's going to get us through, man. Family's going to get us through. I'll never forget, I one time read Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington never really knew who his father was. He knew his mother, obviously. Never knew his father was. And her mother later married another slave, a black man. And he left the family and he went to another part of the country, and they called for the family. Say, hey, come join me here. And I was like, boy, that is just, you have so many stories about that where black men just say, hey, I got to get up and I got to go find work somewhere else. I got to go pursue my dreams somewhere else. And if it meant, leaving the wife and the kids behind, that's what they got to do. They go travel and they get themselves settled, and then they say to the wife and kids, hey, come on. They as men, as providers, as protectors, as dream pursuers, dream builders, they do what they got to do. So his father left, said, hey, he went someplace, got himself settled, and then said to his wife and kids, come on, come on. Sometimes they had to do it that way. The black male father figure in Raisin and the Son, he just said to his wife, well, come on, baby, let's go. We're just going to go. And that's the way other black men literally did it. And I just have so much respect for that. But, really, that's a universal story. That's a universal story. Whether it be whatever they might be, Italians, Irish, whatever. You get those men, some of those men within those cultures that say, man, we're not making it right here. I can't properly provide for my family right here. I can't properly lead and protect my family here. Well, I got to get up and go somewhere else and make it happen. Okay? And they do that. Or they just pack up the wife and kids and say, come on, man, we got to go somewhere else. Well, where are we going? We're going to such and such a place. Well, do we have a house and a job there? No. But we're going there in order to find a job, in order to start a business, in order to build a house. That's that. And many times they wouldn't just go cold into a community. They'd have some family there. At least some families say, well, we can't do much for you. We're struggling too, but hey, we can point you to some apartment you can go to. But the point is, man, that's where Raisin in the Sun is just so universal, global, and why it's a classic, because it really speaks to what many families, regardless of where they are geographically, what their culture is, or their background, that man, usually it's that man who says, come on, man, we got to figure this out. We got to go somewhere else and figure this out. I want to urge everyone and anyone, go to YouTube, check out those two movies, and think about them, and contemplate on them. It's a true classic, folks. Trust me on that. And I particularly want more black folk to do that and start talking and going back and forth and thinking about some of the issues it raises, what it raises about black men, black manhood, the issues of family, the issues of, and that's really mainly it. And the issues of what happens to a dream deferred. What happens to a dream deferred. Hey, folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. Appreciate this time. Thank you for listening to me as I just open up and talk and think out loud. I have, please go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com. I'm also on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called Book Talk with Corbin, Book Talk with Corbin Stevens. Please subscribe.